My boyfriend, who is 30 years old, is really big on grand gestures for birthdays, and unbeknownst to me, he intended on buying me a few pieces of clothing to add to my closet for my 30th birthday. We work opposite schedules, which allows for him to sleep while I'm at work and vice versa. So one afternoon, he went through one of my old purses and found a pros-cons list I wrote several months ago when I was extremely stressed and overwhelmed with the relationship. A little backstory. We dated several years ago and reconnected on social media while he was going through some extreme financial issues. Part of the reason we had broken up previously is because he had moved out of state to help care for his 3-year-old daughter at the time, and the distance became too much. Well, after reconnecting and talking nearly every day, I became extremely invested in helping him. During that time, I was set to move into my very first apartment with just me and my daughter. I wanted to help him and be a good person for him, so I got him a plane ticket and, in so many words, offered my apartment to him temporarily once he came. A few weeks after he moved in, I wrote that list. I was so stressed, and still am to a certain extent. He moved in with no job, a mental load of problems, and I was embarking on my very first apartment, where I would be responsible for providing for not only me and my daughter, but him. Also, around that time, my paid-off car got rear-ended, and I had to inevitably find and finance another, which would add to my stress load. At that time, we were also adjusting to our major personality differences. He's very blunt and stoic, and I am much more sensitive and emotional in my way of doing things. He is very assertive and uncompromising with his thought processes, and I'm much more negotiative, communicative, and people-pleasing. This became a lot for me mentally, emotionally, and physically, and with no one to talk to, I decided to write some pros and cons down to sort through my feelings and see if this was even worth holding on to. Fast forward to my birthday week and he finds the list in my bag, and he is heartbroken. In the list, I was honest with myself on his shortcomings and strengths. Some of the cons on the list were he did not help with bills, he is very dominant with his way of thinking, and I also wrote some physical cons like him being overweight and balding as some of the cons. I do understand how reading that would crush a person, and that is why I feel absolutely terrible. It seems that after reading it, the most hurtful things to him are the physical comments that I made about his weight and hair, since those are things that he cannot help or change. I do care for him deeply and have love for him, although I do not believe I am in love. But I am at a stage where I feel that with patience and work, we can get to a great place. But this may be too steep of a hill for us to climb. I am attracted to him, but I do think he should prioritize staying in shape and not allowing his belly to hang over the way it does. And his hair is thinning, but that has never been a deal breaker for me. I guess I'm crushed because I hurt him in that way, which was never my intention. I just really needed to get some thoughts out of my head and on paper so that I could work through them. Now I don't know what to do. It has been 3 weeks and he is shutting me out, being nice and seeming like he wants to work through it one week, and then throwing it back at me the next. I've mentioned therapy, but he says, I don't need it, or I'm only doing that if I'm getting married. What should I do? Now for an update, he continued to say he didn't know how to feel and he didn't want to talk about this. And I replied saying that his feelings are valid and he had the right to process things in his own time. However, we live together, and I have a 9-year-old daughter that is around him. And in an effort to protect emotional boundaries, I asked to have clarity on how we move forward, whether stepping away from each other, professional help, or breaking up altogether. He became furious and said that I was dictating how he responds and when, how he talks about this, which was never my intention. I'm to a place where I feel I have to protect myself also, and my little girl from the back and forth and emotional damage of him being in this 1 minute and withdrawn the next, so I don't know what to do. He's living in my apartment and not currently paying bills or contributing financially, so it would not be a stretch for him to move out, but I don't know. I'm not sorry for writing down my emotions, but I am sorry for hurting him and feel extremely saddened by all this turmoil this has caused. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So, you decided to do a pros and cons list, which is not a bad thing in itself. You determined that your partner was a balding, fat, unattractive, mentally ill, homeless freeloader and you wrote these thoughts down on paper. Now you're surprised that he is upset about how you think of him? I wouldn't dwell on this too much if I were you. Based on the situation, it seems like you'll have someone else to write a pros and cons list about soon enough. Comment 2. The relationship sounds like it was in a tough spot, and he discovered your written list of things, including physical aspects, that you dislike about him. I'm not sure why one would write down inner thoughts that can destroy a relationship without getting rid of it afterwards, but consider it a lesson learned. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through all this. So, after our last conversation, things took a turn I didn't quite expect. One evening, after a particularly tense day, he came home with a suitcase. He said he needed some space and was going to stay with a friend for a few days. I was relieved and worried at the same time. Relieved because the constant tension was becoming unbearable, but worried about what this meant for us. My daughter noticed his absence and asked if he was coming back. I told her he just needed some time to think, but I wasn't sure if that was true. During those few days, I had time to reflect on everything. I realized that I had been walking on eggshells, trying to avoid any topic that might upset him. It was exhausting. I also noticed how much lighter the atmosphere was without the constant tension. My daughter seemed happier too, which made me think about the impact this relationship was having on her. When he finally came back, he seemed calmer but distant. He said he had been thinking a lot and wanted to talk. We sat down and he told me he was willing to try therapy, but only if I went with him. He said he needed to understand why I wrote that list and how we could move forward. I agreed, hoping this would be a step in the right direction. Our first therapy session was eye-opening. The therapist asked us to talk about our feelings and what led to the current situation. He opened up about his insecurities, especially about his weight and hair. He said he felt like he wasn't good enough for me, and that the list confirmed his worst fears. I felt terrible hearing this, but it also made me realize how much he was struggling internally. The therapist suggested we work on communication and set boundaries. She said we needed to be honest with each other, but also respectful. We agreed to give it a try, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He was still hurt, and I wasn't sure if therapy would be enough to heal the wounds. A few days later, he got a call from his ex. She said she needed help with their daughter, who was having some issues at school. He told me he needed to go back for a while to support her. I understood, but it felt like another blow to our already fragile relationship. He promised to stay in touch and continue therapy remotely, but I wasn't sure how that would work. While he was away, I had to manage everything on my own. It was tough, but it also gave me a sense of independence. I realized I'd been relying on him too much, even though he wasn't contributing financially. I started thinking about what I wanted for myself and my daughter. I wanted stability and peace, something that had been missing for a long time. One evening, I was going through some old photos and found one of us from when we first reconnected. We looked so happy and carefree. It made me wonder if we could ever get back to that place. But then I remembered all the stress and arguments, and I wasn't sure if it was worth it. When he finally came back, things were different. He seemed more focused on his daughter and less interested in working on our relationship. We continued therapy, but it felt like we were just going through the motions. One day, he told me he was thinking about moving back permanently to be closer to his daughter. He said he loved me, but felt like he needed to prioritize his daughter and his own mental health. I was devastated, but also relieved. It felt like the decision was being made for me. I told him I understood and that I wanted the best for him and his daughter. We agreed to part ways amicably, but it still hurt. He packed his things and left, and I was left to pick up the pieces. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I spent more time with my daughter and started taking care of myself. I realized I'd been neglecting my own needs for too long. I also started seeing a therapist on my own to work through my feelings and figure out what I wanted for my future. Looking back, I can see how much I grew from this experience. It was painful, but it also taught me a lot about myself and what I need in a relationship. I learned that it's important to communicate openly and honestly, but also to set boundaries and take care of myself. Thanks for reading. Aita for confronting my mill after she left my son with FIL. Without telling me. I have been with my fiancé Matt, 33-year-old male, for 3 years now, and we have a 15-month-old son together. Friends since middle school, though. My mother-in-law, 70-year-old female, and I have had an interesting relationship. At first it was good, but a few situations have happened that left me personally uncomfortable. Examples. Said my son is big for his age because I'm big. Then 2 months later proudly said another grandchild is big because she's a Matt's last name, but my son is big because of me. That's it. I was invited to my sister-in-law's baby shower, asked to help set up, and was ignored by his entire family. They did not talk with me or introduce me to anyone, while introducing another sister-in-law who also didn't know many of the guests. After I helped set up, my mother-in-law approached me right as the baby shower started and was panicked about some cheese she forgot. Due to her panic, I offered to go get it, which she happily agreed to. I left the baby shower and drove over 30 minutes out of my way. When I found the cheese, it was smaller than my palm and a very generic type. I guess I was expecting a party size worth of cheese. Nope. Turns out they had a ton of cheese at the party, and she only forgot this small block. I missed the entire party. My fiancé Matt had a relapse while we were together. It was one of the hardest times. And when I called my mother-in-law crying about Matt's behavior, going through withdrawal, she called me dramatic. We were invited to my sister-in-law Mel's son's birthday. He has autism and ended up stripping naked. My 7-year-old daughter from a previous relationship had never seen a weenie before, and so she giggled. As did another sister-in-law, Sarah's kids. Mel and my mother-in-law said this was bullying behavior. And the next day, my mother-in-law came to my house, asked to speak with my daughter, and told her how if she wants to be welcome to their house, she can't behave like that. She said her grandson's safety is her top priority. Relevant info. I also have a 14-year-old daughter from a previous relationship who has autism and also giggled. But I guess it was okay that she giggled because she has autism, so it's not bullying. The main problem right now is my mother-in-law blatantly favors her daughter's children and spends 5 days a week with them, all while spending very minimal time with my son, and only if Matt requests to visit. She will also mention the other grandchildren every chance she gets, and typically mentions them immediately after we mention something about our son. 2 weeks ago, our bathroom flooded. At the same time, my mother-in-law kept making comments on how guilty she feels for how little she sees our son. I thought this could be a good opportunity for everyone, so we asked for help from my mother-in-law to hang out with our son while we did the bathroom, and my father-in-law for his help with said bathroom. They agreed, then did not show up and said my father-in-law wasn't in the mood. The following week, my mother-in-law messaged asking if she could come over for a visit to make up for it. Matt, of course, agreed, but asked if he could do the flooring while they visited. My mother-in-law stayed less than an hour, and Matt wasn't even able to get started. I ended up calling my uncle, who thankfully came over and helped us get everything back in working order. After a year of passive-aggressive comments, treatments, and blatant favoritism, I can no longer pretend that I even so much as like my mother-in-law. This is where the problems with Matt are coming in. Matt is extremely defensive of his family, and in every one of these scenarios, he tries to find a way to make it my fault. Anytime his mother made a comment, he didn't say a word. But if I point out that I don't like how I'm treated, he gets defensive and angry with me. They can say whatever they want to me, but I can't say or do anything with them. It all blew up this morning when I mentioned that his mother had sent me a video. He instantly got defensive, thinking I was about to say something nasty about his mother, even though I never have. I don't understand why he believes that. I just snapped and said fine. She's like Voldemort. I won't be saying her name. I would love some advice on this situation. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Name calling is not productive. It's not going to help you. You need actual boundaries. She can never be relied on for childcare. Don't schedule anything based on her and do not ask for any favors. If he wants a visit with her, he is responsible for feeding her and attending to her. You will continue to go about your day. You need to step away from her behavior, not sink to her level. Comment 2. I don't really feel like you were calling her names. I get what you were trying to say. The problem isn't her. It's your doormat of a husband. He needs to stand up for his family. And until he can do that, I wouldn't trust your child around them. It's his responsibility to sort out his mother. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So, 2 weeks ago, things took a turn for the worse. After the whole bathroom flooding incident and my mother-in-law's half-hearted visit, I thought things might settle down. But boy, was I wrong. It started when Matt and I were having dinner, and he casually mentioned that his mom wanted to have a family dinner at her place. I was hesitant, given all the past drama, but Matt insisted it would be good for our son to spend time with his grandparents. Reluctantly, I agreed. The dinner was a disaster from the start. As soon as we walked in, my mother-in-law made a snide comment about how late we were, even though we were right on time. She then proceeded to ignore me for most of the evening, focusing all her attention on Matt and our son. I tried to engage in conversation, but it was clear she wasn't interested. The final straw was when she made a passive-aggressive remark about how our son was finally starting to look like a Matt's last name, implying that he hadn't before. I couldn't take it anymore. I excused myself and went to the bathroom to cool down. When I came back, I overheard my mother-in-law talking to Matt about how I was too sensitive and that I needed to toughen up. Matt didn't defend me. He just nodded along. I felt betrayed and hurt. On the drive home, I confronted Matt about it, and he got defensive, saying I was overreacting and that his mom didn't mean any harm. We ended up having a huge argument, and I spent the night on the couch. The next day, Matt tried to make amends by suggesting we go out for a family day to the park. I agreed, hoping it would help us reconnect. While we were there, Matt got a call from his mom. She wanted to know if we could drop our son off at her place for a few hours, so she could spend time with him. I was hesitant, but Matt insisted it would be fine. We dropped him off and went to run some errands. When we returned to pick him up, my mother-in-law was nowhere to be found. My father-in-law was there, but he seemed annoyed and said she had gone out with her daughter and the other grandkids. I was furious. We had trusted her to watch our son, and she had just left him with my father-in-law, who clearly didn't want to be there. I confronted her about it later, and she brushed it off, saying she had forgotten we were coming back so soon. This incident was the breaking point for me. I told Matt that I couldn't keep doing this, that his mother's behavior was affecting our relationship and our family. He got defensive again, saying I was making a big deal out of nothing. I told him that if he couldn't stand up for me and our son, then maybe we needed to reconsider our relationship. He was shocked and didn't know what to say. Over the next few days, things were tense between us. Matt was distant, and I was struggling with my feelings of resentment and hurt. I decided to reach out to a therapist to help me navigate my emotions and figure out what to do next. The therapist helped me realize that I needed to set boundaries with my mother-in-law and communicate my needs to Matt more effectively. I sat down with Matt and told him how I felt, that I needed him to support me and stand up for our family. I explained that his mother's behavior was not okay and that we needed to set boundaries with her. To my surprise, Matt listened and agreed. He admitted that he had been avoiding confrontation with his mom because he didn't want to upset her, but he realized that it was hurting our relationship. We decided to have a sit-down conversation with his mother to address the issues. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was necessary. We told her how her behavior was affecting us and that we needed her to respect our boundaries. She was defensive at first, but eventually she agreed to try and be more considerate. Since then, things have been slowly improving. Matt has been more supportive and has started standing up for me when his mom makes snide comments. We've also been spending more time together as a family, without his mother's interference. It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. Thank you for reading. Aita for wanting my girlfriend to get off the couch and contribute to our future. Why 28-year-old really need advice on what to do with my girlfriend. 30-year-old female. We met and got together 8 months ago and had a great time. But recently I am getting more worried. We haven't moved in together. I think the main issue that worries me is that she does not want to work and, to some degree, cannot work or do anything difficult. She is okay being provided for by her dad. She doesn't take care of herself or her place, even if she doesn't work. She has always been provided for financially by her dad, who is retired and well off. They are not very rich, but she gets enough money to survive. She has a medical degree and will soon get her license as well. When we met, she was studying extra courses half-time, also to get study benefits, and worked around 1-2 shifts per month. Now she has completely stopped working and studying. She has also not wanted to get a summer job. She has said before that she will never work full-time, and has commented sometimes that she likes the idea of being a housewife, like her mother. Despite this, she can't take care of her place. Her place is usually similar to a hoarder's place, even though she has taken around 2 months to unpack and clean. She has a lot of mental and physical health issues. Her attention deficit hyperactivity disorder affects her the most, but she is now medicating. She also has autism and some post-traumatic stress disorder. She is feeling down about her situation, but doesn't do much about it. Physically, she has asthma, gluten allergy, cholesterol problems, and irritable bowel syndrome. Recently, it's been worse. We have a great time hanging out during the weekends, but since I work from home a lot, she has been staying more at my place during the weekdays. It struck me how she doesn't do anything at all. I get up at 8 and start working at 9. She usually sleeps around 12 hours until 12 o'clock. Then we eat lunch. When I continue working after lunch, she goes to bed to watch Netflix for around 6 hours, until I am finished with work around 6 p.m. I do all the cooking and cleaning. She doesn't work or have any hobbies outside of Netflix. She doesn't go outside or meet her friends, no shopping either. I am worried for our future. I want to have a nice future with kids, she does too, and a house in the future. But I feel like I can't trust her to actually help with any chores, get a job, or help with the kids. I don't care if she can't or doesn't want to work full-time, but I want to be sure she will actually take care of chores and not just watch Netflix. I work a full-time, stressful job in law. Finally, I have talked to her about how it makes me nervous and stressed that she doesn't do anything about her situation. Trying to encourage her to go outside, clean her place, take care of her things. But she gets defensive and always says that it's hard because of her attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, her asthma, or her gluten allergy. She always uses it as an excuse. And unfortunately, I don't always believe her anymore. What should I do? How can I get her to start doing things and get a hold of her life? Am I being too hard on her? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It's been 8 months. You don't like the life she is offering as a partner. That's valid. 3. 9 months is generally the zone for learning that about someone. They may be a decent person to date for a while, but they aren't your person for life. There are lots of people you may like or care for, who are just not good life partners for you long term. Just accept that now and leave on friendly terms before the resentment and judgment turns you into someone you don't want to be. Comment 2. I had phases like her with ADHD and other problems, but never ever did I do nothing. I always did something or at least tried. She needs to get her butt up, especially if she is medicated. She is showing you who she is. She is telling you what she wants. She wants a man who provides for her. You don't want that. Leave her. And be careful with birth control. Even if she wasn't doing anything, there is still the problem of her wanting a different future than you. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for the comments from my last post. So, things have been pretty intense these past 2 weeks. After my last post, I decided to have another serious talk with my girlfriend about her lack of motivation and how it's affecting our relationship. I tried to be as gentle as possible, but I had to be honest. I told her that I'm really worried about our future together if things don't change. She got really upset and defensive as usual, but this time she also broke down crying. She admitted that she feels overwhelmed and doesn't know where to start. She said she's scared of failing, and that's why she avoids doing anything at all. I suggested that we come up with a plan together to help her get back on track. We agreed that she would start by setting small, manageable goals each day, like cleaning one part of her apartment or going for a short walk. I also encouraged her to see a therapist to help her deal with her mental health issues. She reluctantly agreed to try, but I could tell she wasn't very enthusiastic about it. A few days later, I noticed she was making some effort. She cleaned up a bit around her place and even went for a walk. But then, out of nowhere, her dad called and told her he was cutting off her financial support. Apparently, he's been having some financial troubles of his own and can't afford to support her anymore. This news hit her really hard. She was devastated and didn't know what to do. She started panicking about how she was going to pay her bills and buy groceries. I tried to comfort her and suggested that she look for a part-time job to help make ends meet. She was resistant at first, But eventually, she agreed to start looking. She applied for a few jobs, but she hasn't heard back from any of them yet. In the meantime, I've been helping her out financially, but it's starting to take a toll on me as well. I'm worried about how long I can keep this up. One night, while we were having dinner, she opened up about her past. She told me that her mom was a housewife who never worked a day in her life. Her dad always took care of everything, and her mom never had to worry about anything. She said she always admired her mom and wanted to be just like her, but now she's realizing that it's not as easy as it seemed. She admitted that she's scared of being independent and doesn't know if she can handle it. This revelation made me understand her a bit better, but it also made me more worried about our future. I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to take care of everything while she does nothing. I want a partner who can share the responsibilities with me. A few days later, she had a bit of a breakthrough. She managed to get an interview for a part-time job at a local bookstore. She was really nervous, but I helped her prepare for it. She went to the interview and felt like it went well, but she hasn't heard back yet. I'm really hoping she gets the job because I think it would be a good step forward for her. In the meantime, I've been trying to encourage her to find hobbies and activities that she enjoys. I suggested that she try painting or knitting, something that she can do at home and that might help her feel more productive. She seemed interested, but she hasn't actually started anything yet. I'm trying to be patient, but it's hard. One night while we were watching a movie, she suddenly turned to me and said she's scared that I'm going to leave her. She said she knows she's not doing enough and that she's afraid I'm going to get fed up and walk away. I reassured her that I'm not going anywhere, but I also told her that things need to change. I can't keep doing everything on my own. I've also been dealing with my own internal conflicts. I love her and I want to be with her, but I'm starting to feel resentful. I'm tired of being the only one who's putting in any effort. I'm worried that if things don't change, I'm going to end up resenting her even more. I don't want that to happen, but I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. I've been thinking a lot about our future and what I want. I want a partner who can share the responsibilities with me, someone who can help take care of the house and the kids. I don't mind if she doesn't want to work full-time, but I need to know that she's willing to contribute in other ways. I'm starting to wonder if that's ever going to happen. I'm also worried about her mental health. She's been seeing a therapist, but I don't know if it's helping. She still seems so overwhelmed and lost. I'm trying to be supportive, but it's hard when I'm dealing with my own stress and anxiety. I'm not sure what to do next. I want to help her, but I also need to take care of myself. I'm starting to feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.